Long before the first brick was laid in the city of Harappa, the Indian subcontinent was an immense, completely untamed landscape. This is prehistory, a 2 million-year stretch of human existence that occurred completely without written scripts. Without diaries, tax records, or stone edicts to read, we have to reconstruct the behavior of our ancestors entirely from the physical debris they left behind in the earth. That requires a strict reliance on 4 streams of data: archaeological stone artifacts, human anthropological traits, ancient plant and animal remains, and the geological soil itself. This image shows a stratigraphic excavation pit. By studying these vertical soil profiles, we can read the passage of time. Deep layers hold the oldest materials, and higher layers hold more recent developments, giving us a physical timeline of human progression. We are going to track this timeline across 5 distinct phases, from the Paleolithic to the Megalithic. Along the way, we will see exactly how the continuous refinement of stone tool technology served as the mechanical engine that drove human civilization forward. Tracing this immense physical record reveals a profound sequence of early human engineering that remains clearly visible in the Indian landscape today. The timeline begins with the Paleolithic, or Old Stone Age. Spanning from roughly 2 million to 10,000 BCE, this is by far the longest phase of human history, dictated largely by the harsh, freezing climates of the Ice Age. The economic baseline here is absolute zero. Humans had no capacity to produce food. They survived entirely as nomadic hunter-gatherers, moving constantly in search of water, wild game, and foraging materials. To survive, they engineered their first major technological breakthrough: manufacturing tools out of quartzite. Looking at these lower Paleolithic hand axes, you can see the earliest iterations of this technology. These large, crude, asymmetrically chipped stones were heavy enough to butcher large animal carcasses and dig out roots. Over thousands of years, as human cognitive and motor skills developed, so did the engineering. By the Middle Paleolithic, toolmakers transitioned to producing smaller, lighter tools made from stone flakes, increasing their cutting efficiency. The Upper Paleolithic advanced this even further, producing highly specialized, razor-sharp stone blades alongside the first implements carved from bone. Alongside these lithic advancements came the controlled use of fire. This provided crucial warmth, allowed for cooking, and offered defense against predators. Survival in the Paleolithic was a process of active, continuous engineering, taking crude natural materials and processing them into life-saving tools. To see how these early humans lived, we can look at the center of the Indian subcontinent, in modern Madhya Pradesh. This is the site of the Bhimbetka rock shelters. Now a UNESCO World Heritage Site, it contains over 700 distinct shelters that show evidence of continuous human habitation. The real anthropological data here is found on the walls. Early inhabitants used red ochre and white pigment to create extensive rock paintings. This specific photograph of the rock face reveals clear evidence of communal activity. The stick figure humans are depicted holding hands in a uniform, coordinated row. These detailed depictions of group dancing, alongside scenes of coordinated hunting, point toward a shared culture. They suggest early humans had begun practicing religious rituals and nature worship. The evidence at Bhimbetka confirms that early humans developed sophisticated social organization and abstract symbolic thought long before they planted their first crops. 10,000 BCE marks a critical environmental turning point. The Ice Age ended, and the global climate rapidly warmed. This temperature shift caused thick forests to expand across river valleys, bringing a massive increase in smaller, faster animal species. The heavy, cumbersome hand axes of the Paleolithic were suddenly useless for hunting nimble prey in dense foliage. The human response to this environmental pressure defines the Mesolithic age, the mass production of microliths. These stone pieces are microliths. Notice the highly refined, slender shapes and sharp cutting edges. Measuring just 1 to 5 centimeters, their flat bases show these blades were meant to be hafted onto wooden shafts, creating the first lightweight spears and arrows. This technological leap triggered an economic shift. Because projectile hunting was so efficient, bands of humans didn't need to migrate continuously to find food. They adopted a semi-nomadic lifestyle, establishing seasonal camps near rivers and lakes where they could fish. During these longer encampments, we see the very first steps away from pure hunting. Humans domesticated the dog and began experimenting with primitive seed sowing. The miniaturization of stone weapons directly allowed our ancestors to transition from constant wandering to sustained seasonal encampments. This stability set the stage for the Neolithic Revolution, lasting from approximately 6000 to 1000 BCE. It marks the shift from gathering food from the environment to actively producing it. The primary catalyst was agriculture. Humans began the intentional, organized cultivation of staple cereal crops like wheat, barley, and rice. Cultivating crops generated a reliable caloric surplus. That stable food supply triggered massive population growth, which strictly required people to build permanent, year-round villages near fertile lands. Farming required an entirely new class of implements, like these Neolithic celts. The rough, chipped edges of older tools are gone, replaced by incredibly smooth, polished surfaces and durable, tapered edges, designed for felling trees and heavy woodworking. Agriculture also demanded a way to store the grain surplus and transport water. This necessitated the invention of pottery, leaving behind these scattered shards of ancient ceramic bowls in the excavation dirt. As this agricultural model spread, it adapted to local conditions. At Mehrgarh in modern Pakistan, we see evidence of early wheat cultivation, while at Burzam in Kashmir, inhabitants dug underground pit dwellings to protect themselves from the freezing climate. Agriculture completely re-engineered human behavior. It replaced egalitarian, wandering bands with specialized, settled communities. The pure Stone Age eventually ended with the Chalcolithic phase. Here, communities began integrating early copper metallurgy alongside their existing lithic tools. Smelting metal required specialized labor. This led to expanding trade networks, even larger village settlements, and the clear emergence of social stratification based on wealth. Further south on the Indian subcontinent, prehistory culminated in the megalithic phase, spanning from 1500 to 300 BCE. This era is defined by the widespread use of iron weapons and the construction of massive stone burial monuments, like the dolmen pictured here. Notice the immense scale and structural balance of the table-like stone slabs. The placement of dolmens, stone heaps called cairns, and standing menhirs over graves indicates a society focused heavily on proper burial practices and the afterlife. Extracting, transporting, and assembling these multi-ton stone monuments requires complex engineering and a highly organized labor force, proving the existence of strict hierarchical social structures. Over 2 million years, the technology of the subcontinent followed a clear trajectory, from crude quartz choppers to precision microliths, to polished agricultural axes, and finally to smelted metals. Each technological iteration provided the mechanical basis for new economic behaviors, from basic survival to organized trade. The prehistoric record documents 2 million years of aggressive, systematic engineering and constant adaptation to a shifting environment. The division of labor, the generation of food surpluses, and the rigid social hierarchies established in the Neolithic and Chalcolithic periods were the mandatory prerequisites for urbanization. Prehistoric India constructed the exact socio-economic bedrock required to support the grand, highly organized cities of the coming